what were the events that brought you, led you towards military service? Let's start back there.
Yeah, so way back in 2006, I had just graduated college with a degree in sports medicine, and I was getting a master's in sports medicine at the University of Virginia. And while I was doing my master's, there was a guy in the PhD program, and he was active duty Navy. And when I met him, it just blew me away. I had no idea that you could be active duty Navy and getting your PhD. And so I talked to him, and he was a Navy physical therapist. And so he told me about the Army Baylor Doctor of Physical Therapy program, is what it's called at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. And so I just kept that in the back of my mind and I kept in touch with him. And about 2 years later, I was kind of burned out with my job and I'd always wanted to go to physical therapy school. And at that time, my brother was serving as a Marine, and my cousin, who's my same age, he had enlisted in the Army right out of high school. And so I kind of had both of those people in my life. And again, this is 2008, 9 right now. So the wars were going pretty heavy at that point, and it was
Hmm.
kind of around that surge time. And so it was just really heavy on my mind. And I thought if I could go to physical therapy school and get a free doctor of physical therapy degree and serve, that would be awesome. And so I decided to join and I got in. So I started the DPT program is what I'll call it, in 2010. And then I finished in 2013. And then I spent active duty from 2000, well, as a licensed physical therapist from 2013 till 2021 at a few different duty stations. So it was a great experience and I did love it.
So, yeah, it was a rewarding job. You enjoyed it, and you got to spend some time overseas. That's great. Uh, was there, was it what you thought it would be? Was it more or less?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I always tell people now the same advice that one of my professors told me. When I did join, I had a 7 year obligation. And so my plan was to get the degree for free, do 4 years, and then peace out. But one of my professors told us that that was her plan like 20 years before. And one of her mentors told her to give the military a chance. And as long as it was good, the military will take care of you, do your best, contribute. And if it's ever not the right fit, then at that point to move on. And so I really took that to heart. And my first couple duty stations were Fort Hood, Texas, and then Fort Polk, Louisiana. Those are both some of the worst posts to be on in the military from everything I hear, and I can vouch for that. But I loved it, and I really enjoyed being with a brigade combat team. Definitely one of the highlights of my career, and then deploying with them. And so I just kind of kept giving the military that next chance. And that brought us to launch school Germany, and Germany was a great experience. Very different than the line units, but it was awesome in another way, and it was great quality of life and the ability to travel. It was just so good. And so, but then I did reach that point when we were in Germany. I was actually on a deployment, and I had been deployed on a very short notice. So I think I had 26 days from the point I found out about the deployment to the time I landed in or I left Germany. Um, and that was and my wife was pregnant at the point. It was at that time, it was our first child, and he was going to be due in April, and this was October. And so my local leadership had worked out that we could split the deployment in half with another physical therapist from Vicenza. She had not deployed and she wanted to deploy, but she had just had a baby, so she couldn't cover the first half of the deployment. So it was going to work out perfectly where I could cover the first 5 months, she could cover the second 5 months, and then, she would be home while her baby was that little, and I would be home when my son was born. Well, I don't know if I'm not going to get too specific on who, but a certain colonel from not the army denied my request to split the deployment and return early. And so, like that very next day, I was on a helicopter flying out to some little outpost in eastern Afghanistan. And I was reading the book, The Simple Path to Wealth. And in the book, J.L. Collins talks an awful lot about sabbaticals throughout his life. And it just hit me we've always been aggressive savers and investors. I've always been very frugal just naturally. I was like,
Hmm.
we don't, I don't need to be here right now. Like, I shouldn't be in Afghanistan while my pregnant wife is about to have a baby, and I'm going to miss that. And so it was kind of that point where the light bulb went off, and I was like, man, that's what it means to be financially independent. So, to make a longer story a little bit shorter, I was able to kind of pull a string actually, and I've never done that in my life, but I kind of talked to someone else who made something happen, and I made it back for the birth of my son, and I will never regret that all the days of my life. And so it was just that experience, though. That was one of those times where I started thinking about those words about, give the military a chance, and as long as it's good, keep going. I just realized that while I did love it, and my mission was to serve those who serve us, and that was very rewarding. But there was also a huge component of burnout to that. And when I started to feel like I didn't have full control over my life to live it the way I wanted to, that's when I really started thinking it's probably time to exit the military. And then fortunately, I had another passion, which was the financial side of things. And so I had been blogging about financial independence at that point and kind of morphed into an investing blog for financial independence. And so I just was naturally teaching people about that. I was leading classes for the soldiers on deployment. I was leading classes for my coworkers at Launch Stool. And I just thought this would be perfect if I could make a clean break from the military, go to the reserves, finish up my career, and then transition to becoming an independent financial planner. And so it just gave me a lot of benefits of like independence, control over my time. I work from home now. So I saw my son before the podcast. I'll see him after the podcast and we'll play. It's awesome now. So I'm very grateful for my time in the military and what it provided me with. And I am still in the reserves, so I still do want to go after the 20 years and, get the reserve pension and lock in TRICARE at some point. But, I love the flexibility that I have as well.